The CDR, Committee for the Defense of the Revolution. This program was created back in the 1960s after the 1959 revolutionary takedown of the US-backed dictatorship. The dictatorship was exploiting the land, labor, and capital of Cuba, and after the rebels dissolved the dictatorship's military forces, Che Guevara, one of the revolutionary leaders, announced land reforms that were coming that would break up the large land holdings that were controlled by a small number of wealthy Cuban elites. And not only Cuban elites, American elites controlled about 70% of the arable land in Cuba at the time. So the rebel forces were to seize this property from the wealthy elites and redistribute it back down to the landless peasants who worked these large agricultural estates. And because this benefited the overwhelming majority of the Cuban population, it received widespread support. But like with every revolution, this was not without struggle.
La revolución fue el 1 de enero de 1959. Ya en diciembre del 59 ya habían bandas contrarrevolucionarias. ¿Y quiénes las eliminaron? Cuando aquello no había ejército cubano, no había ejército, eran los rebeldes que le llamaban, los que bajaron de la sierra, los campesinos que hicieron la milicia campesina. Nosotros, yo fui miliciano de los fundadores de la milicia, que corrían, salimos a los campos a acabar con los contrarrevolucionarios. ¿Quiénes eran? Le tiraban cosas en paracaídas, trataban de infiltrarlo en lanchas por la costa. Ahora, lo último es que aparecemos como promotores del terrorismo. Promotores del terrorismo, aquí se han pasado la vida.
You see, counter-revolutionary groups quickly formed from the upper classes of Cuban society, and they also had a lot of help from groups who lived within the United States, because the United States as well had a lot of influence and control over the land, labor, and capital within Cuba. Together, these groups fought back with misinformation, violence, and terror as they struggled to maintain their power against the masses. But because there was an absence of authority at the time, the upper class's return to power was practically hopeless, and it was put down everywhere it sprung up by the Cuban people themselves.
¿Quiénes lo repelieron? ¿Quiénes los milicianos? ¿Quiénes son los milicianos? La gente del pueblo.
The Cuban masses basically chased out all of Batista's men and anybody else who was counter-revolutionary trying to put down their revolutionary movement. They had counter-revolutionary groups and CIA spies basically sneaking around, cutting power lines, spreading misinformation, putting bombs in buildings, hotels, and ports. But the final straw happened when a blast erupted on the formal presidential palace steps where Fidel Castro was giving a speech. He then went on to say,
vigilancia revolucionaria colectiva. Y vamos a ver cómo se pueden mover aquí los lacayos del imperialismo. Porque en definitiva, nosotros vivimos en toda la ciudad. No hay un edificio de apartamento desde la ciudad, ni hay cuadra, ni hay manzana, ni hay barrio que no esté ampliamente representado aquí.
And there it was. By September 28th of 1960, the Committee for the Defense of the Revolution, otherwise known as the CDR, was born. Now the CDR is basically just a network of neighborhood committees that was established to allow the Cuban people to use their eyes, ears, and voices to counteract the counter-revolutionary activity that was trying to sabotage their movement. Now the structure of the CDR is very simple to understand. Basically, it starts in every community. Every neighborhood gets their own CDR base. The CDR base is basically made up of the residents from within that neighborhood directly, and anyone from within that neighborhood can join and become a member if they want. If they do, their duty becomes to protect and report any suspicious activities within their community to keep them safe. They also participate in political activism and help educate and unify their communities. So if anyone's ever been to Cuba and has wondered why is it so safe here, now you know why. Another thing is the local CDRs elect their local president. So every CDR base has their own president that the members themselves collectively elect. So like I said, very simple to understand. Every CDR base is made up of the residents from within that neighborhood. They elect their president, and all the presidents have access to their local community businesses, cooperatives, state agencies, organizations, and they communicate back and forth with these groups to get information, resources, and anything that they need to carry out their desired activities. And yes, I said activities because the CDR is not simply just a neighborhood defense committee.
Defensa de la revolución existen en las cuadras. Por ejemplo, en mi cuadra yo tengo uno. Y entonces es como que los vecinos se ayudan entre sí, cooperan. Antes se daban actividades, ahora no hay recursos. Antes se picaba, por ejemplo, el 28 de septiembre, que es el día de los comités de defensa de la revolución, se picaba un key, se hacía una caldosa. Una caldosa es una caldera grande que se ponía y se echaban viandas y carne y eso, y se hacían caldosa y todo el mundo tomaba caldosa. Pero ya en estos momentos la situación económica no lo permite. Los comités de defensa captan también los donantes de sangre voluntarios. Por ejemplo, tú necesitas una transfusión de sangre y se hace gratuito en el hospital, no te cobran. Y es por la captación que hacen los CDR de los jóvenes donantes de sangre voluntarios.
You see, the CDR is also based on promoting community services through voluntary participation. So this would include things like street cleaning, recycling, blood banks, teaching. They also help to put educational and medical services into national effect. They're also tasked with other things like arranging community meetings, festivals, rallies, etc. But the 64 years of US sanction wars have counteracted a lot of Cuba's revolutionary momentum and have cost the economy trillions. It's also played a large role in dampening their overall efforts to maintain independence. With that being said, I'd still like to say that the CDR's efforts have been truly inspiring and have been a successful model of grassroots organizing and community engagement for the political and economic defense of socialist development. There is a lot that we could learn from this movement in other countries, and we could adopt a lot of these ideas into our tactics and strategies as we face off against imperialism, fascism, and capitalism. Because socialism needs a strong sense of community in order for it to defend itself from those who wish to destroy it. So establishing committees in our local communities not only allows us to win over our public support, it also allows us to lay the foundational work that paves pathways for community projects, political engagement, activism, community defense, and learning, which are all very important building blocks to the development of socialism. And we should all be trying to integrate as many elements of socialism into our society as possible to advance our goals of democratic control.